We concluded the Portland Open Studios, and this weekend I have the Clark County Open Studios. And I wanted to make a video for this week about what it actually takes to be a full-time artist. And I'm going to speak about fine art because that's what I know. And I look at it as, if you want to be good, you look at established paths. And if you want to be great, you innovate. A lot of the artists that we hear of today that are masters of the past, they really did something different. The ones that we know the most of are the ones that pivoted in some way to the establishment of their time. I think as artists, we are living through a second renaissance being birthed by technology age. And I wanted to make a video of what I've learned being an artist for 3.5 years full time. And before that, even though I graduated in 2008, I've had shows, but it was never a full-time thing because it took time. It took time to develop not just your skills, it took time to develop the know-how, how to navigate the art world, the fine art world. And I worked as a designer for many years, full-time, and I had my own business, and then ended up selling the business because I felt like I had enough know-how to pursue art full-time. And now that I've been doing the fine art painting for 3.5 years, I want to make a video about how I have found my path, and maybe it would help you in whatever era you are in now. One of the most important things that I've learned is the importance of being vision-led. As you set out on the art career path, you will know that it's the opposite of a linear path. Because even if you graduate art school and you have some connections, you're still not guaranteed that you're going to be signed with a gallery. You're not guaranteed anything. And obviously there's nothing guaranteed in life, but especially in a creative field. To me, being vision-led means that you have something, an idea that you want to bring forth in a way using your medium, whatever it is. You feel like you have to birth this idea one way or another. That to me is being vision-led. It can look like many different things to many different people. But following that, being that the North Star, I think of my studio as not a factory, because oftentimes we get pigeonholed if, oh my God, these types of paintings are selling, therefore I'm going to create more. And then you become this factory and you slowly distinguish that vision. I look at it more like it's my laboratory. It's where I get to innovate and create and be playful and follow my curiosity, holding my vision at the top, and how can I approach a certain concept in many different ways. And that has helped me actually even creatively in the studio. I mean, even in the business side of art, it has helped me be a lot more flexible about my approaches and methods that I use, and just not saying no just because you're scared of an opportunity. Because we all have a unique vision. I think being a vision-led, because we are all unique in our own way, nobody can replicate your experience. If we really hone in on our vision, what happens is we can cut through a lot of established paths. It's okay to be the white raven or the black sheep. That actually is a benefit. It's a feature and not a glitch. I love reading autobiographies, and I always think about on their obituary, nobody ever says, oh my God, they really followed all the rules. Bravo. I have never seen that. It's always the ones who, they broke through this barrier and they did this and they just innovated in this way. And to me, anyway, that's incredibly inspirational, because sometimes my ideas can be so crazy that I think people are going to think I've lost my mind. I feel like it's a responsibility that I have to do. So many artists look with nostalgia at old masters. Like, oh man, now I have to do this social media thing, and they did it for the purity's sake. And it's not the case. If they actually took the time to read through their stories, the amount of sacrifice that they did for their art. Da Vinci worked for Duke Ludovico Sforza for 17 years. This was a very prominent era for him in his life. He did a lot of commissions, designing his court festivals, painting, sculptures, machinery, all commissions, all following curiosities. Now we know of him obviously as one of the great minds of history. Picasso had to move to a different country in order for the possibility of him being discovered. Can you imagine moving to a different country just because you're hoping to get discovered? I mean, that's just dedication. And sometimes I feel like nowadays when we look back in nostalgia, I don't think comprehend how big of a gesture that was, or a commitment to their vision to be an artist. How much vision it took to have the courage to make these big decisions. Like so many artists, I feel like they're posting a few things and then they're crying about not getting enough attention. Yes, is it hard? Of course it is. But we deal with now different obstacles. There will always be obstacles. Now we don't have the barrier of, you don't have to move to a different city to make it in the art world. You can live anywhere and you can still make it. I love to look at old masters to see what are their characteristic or character traits that I can bring in my practice today using the tools today. And so that has really helped me with my practice as being a full-time artist. The artists that we know of today, they put themselves out consistently. They believed in their vision. That's what my takeaway from the old masters. You believe in your vision and you just consistently keep showing up. So you work on your controllables. Another lesson that I've learned is the importance of being a self-starter, especially today. The amount of access that we have to tools to be a self-starter. If you want to be a writer, a painter, musician, don't just send yourself out so others can approve on. Create your own opportunities. Start your podcast, start your artist collective, start a group show gallery, develop a group show, rent a space, do a pop-up show where you and your friends can show work. We have so many tools at our disposal today that I think this might be actually the most important lesson, is that create your own opportunities. Because if you're only sending yourself out there for the gatekeepers to tell you yes or no, you're going to be pandering to that system. And they're only having X amount of spots. And you're the one that needs to be doing the most for your career, not the least. Almost in a rebellious way. Don't let the system, you don't have to wait for the system to approve you. You already have approved yourself and you know your commitment and you just do it. And once you establish that, once you're saying, okay, I'm going to do this my way, the funny thing happens, the people in the system, they notice you because you're doing something different. There are a lot of talented people out there. And I found that's a really good way to cut through so many people following the same path. Really stand out by being vision-led and creating your own opportunities. When you create your own opportunities, it's a way for you to set yourself apart in the sea of people doing the same thing and following a similar path. You're an artist. Find innovative ways to get yourself out there, to get your project seen so others can connect with your work. No one's gonna knock at your door and say, hey, let me give you a free show. It's so important. If you really want to make it in the fine art world, or if you want to make it as an artist, for whatever reason, I've always had a big problem with authority. I've consistently looked through loopholes. Oh, but why is this way? This is just because it's always been done this way, or not always even. Up until some point, things shift. And be the one shifting the things, creating new opportunities for different voices to be heard. There's so many ways to do something. Spotting those little crevices of opportunities. It's such a beautiful way to lead a studio practice. Artists had to move to big cities just in order for them to have the probability of getting discovered. And now we don't have to do this. So we now have different barriers to work through. We have a lot more tools and access. And I think it's so important for us to bring forth the world we want to see. One of the questions I always ask myself is, what I can do from where I am with what I have. What is the best thing that I can do? And one of the things that I found is start with one thing and do that for a bit. Start with one thing and slowly implement, because creating a biodiverse practice is important. Because I used to be with a gallery that is no longer here, 2 of them. Galleries go out of business all the time. So right now, I think the way the art world is shifting is every artist has their own basically home base. And instead of having, like even 10 years ago, you used to have a 5-year contract with a gallery. Majority of the galleries now, the ones who are actually actively looking to bring forth new voices, which is my favorite to work with. I love working with galleries because of that, but I don't exclusively work with galleries anymore. You decide on what type of practice you want to have as an artist. Because if you only are signed with 1 gallery or 2 galleries, it may not be enough for you to make a living. It really depends on the gallery, the roster of artists, and how frequently you can do your shows. For me, I don't like to put my eggs in one basket. So what has been helpful for me is really diversifying. Do I show with galleries? Yes. Do I love to show with galleries? But only if I see the benefit for both sides. Because galleries are fantastic and it's a lot of work, and I'm very conscientious the fact that galleries also are businesses. And so for them, they want to show art that they think their collector base is going to want to interact with, or something that the voice that they believe in the artist to show. So I love to show galleries with those types of galleries. But the old model where you have an exclusive contract no longer has to be the case, because what if something happens, they go out of business, and that's it, that cuts off everything. It cuts off your collectors, it cuts off your access to showing your work. And I think it's so important for artists to have multiple revenue streams, whatever it may be for you, to sustain your practice. It can be working with multiple galleries. I love to work with galleries, and I love to as well online marketplaces, and also through my website. And I have different drops, like for limited edition prints, because I don't like to overproduce my work. Even my limited edition, they're printed at museum quality with archival inks, and I want them to be a collector's item. Even if they're $200, I want them to really have a lot of value for the collector, so they can live with the work and they know it's not going to be overproduced. I feel sometimes when your goal is only to get, like, say you put a gallery on a pedestal, it's too easy for you to say, okay, well, this is a prestigious gallery, it's showing this type of art, I'm going to try to do this type of art. You're basically almost betraying your vision doing that. And I refuse to do that. So vision first, everything else later. Whatever it is your vision for an artist, for me, that has helped me. This has always been, if there's a question of whether or not this is a good opportunity, okay, does this align with my vision? That's it. That's a yes or no. And if it doesn't, even if it may mean temporarily it's a good opportunity, it might be better for you to say no. I've said no to a few opportunities that it just wasn't aligned with my overall vision for my practice. And this is why in my previous video, when I was saying how I use social media as a tool, it's just a tool like a palette knife or a brush for your studio to give a glimpse into your studio for other people. Because art is just such a... Can you imagine our society without art? And I'm talking about, like, when you have a dark moment and you hear a poem that speaks to such a deep level in your soul that you feel understood, art did its job. Because it built a connection. It built a connection to make you feel like you're not alone. When you see a painting that you're just like, oh my goodness, this is how I feel, nothing can replicate. Music. Can you imagine a world without music? Sometimes we don't have words. And have you ever laid on the floor and just put music on really loud, and you just feel that you're embodying the music? And after a few times, usually it's like 3, 4, 5 maybe times, you listen to the same song, you come out of it, you feel like, okay, now I feel more relaxed. It's such a therapeutic... Art is therapies in so many ways. Another thing that's super important is, as cheesy as this sounds, to believe in yourself. Whenever I think my ideas are outlandish, or I don't know how I'm gonna make this happen, I think about my past, what I have overcome to bring me to here. Any past experiences that say you were afraid and you did this, anything like that, and then you've overcome and it's better for you now. Anything to me, that has really helped me looking back at my own history and saying, okay, you overcame this, it made you stronger. You overcame this and you overcame this. And that gives me a lot of courage to pursue whatever the outlandish idea that I have. Basically, the trust in yourself that you can do hard things and you can figure this out. Like reminding yourself of your past wins, to trust your process and don't discount your ideas, because oftentimes we think, or I used to think, oh, this idea, how am I going to monetize this idea? Forget that thinking. That actually is a very stifling thinking. You're saying more no to yourself than yeses in that way, because if money is just a tool like anything else, it's a necessary tool for survival, but it's just a tool. My practice has been for a long time to, as soon as I have an idea, just jot it down, just sketch it or write it. My notes app is incredibly long and I have categories, because sometimes if I'm stuck, I'm looking through and oh my God, this was such a good idea. Always keep a diary of your ideas, because they may be outlandish, but oftentimes they can birth something really, really great. And the most important lesson is having patience, the importance of having patience. Everything worthwhile doing takes time. And I know this is cheesy, but it's true. They always say the path, it's the journey, not the destination. That is very, very true. Who you become in the process of being patient with yourself, with your practice, with how your career is going, who you become in that process is a lot more valuable than the objects you even create. Because see, like in art, I look at the art career as it's a gestation process. So first you have the 9 months of gestation process, then you're birthing an idea, then this idea becomes a toddler and a teenager and then to a functioning adult. This all takes time and dedication and perseverance and every day showing up and doing the best of your ability. And it's like this force that you keep feeding little bits at a time, little bits of practice. And you're gonna have resistance and you decide to let go of that resistance. You acknowledge the resistance, but you never let it take over and you just continue going. It takes time. Just because you may not get accepted to one thing, it doesn't mean that you're a bad artist. It just takes time. Just keep going, keep doing your practice, keep working your portfolio, keep putting yourself out there. Maintain your dedication to your vision. Through that, you're creating an ecosystem of biodiversity of your art practice. Then you find people who will connect to your work. Such an important part of being an artist is understanding your collectors. If you're gonna show fine art at a craft market, nobody's gonna be interested in your fine art, because it's a very different type of collector that goes to a craft market than goes to a fine art market. I noticed that at the fairs in Seattle, LA, New York, people go to the art fairs. They know the value of work. The only decision that they have to make is whether or not they connect with the work. The value of art has already been established. If you go to a crafts market, they're gonna say, well, can I get 20% off of this? Can I get 30% off of this? And because they don't understand the value of it, you spend a lot of your energy convincing them the value of work. And I think you're doing yourself a disservice this way. Because see, the craft market, the conversation is, ooh, I'm gonna exchange my money for this art and that's it. A fine art market is gonna say, tell me about the idea, tell me about your process, tell me about your materials that you use. It's a very different conversation with a very different collector base. And I think for me, it was so important to really weed out the markets that are not gonna serve my art practice and the ones that will. That's why I love to work with select galleries, because same as you're applying to a gallery, don't apply to all galleries. Really look at their roster, really look at what kind of art that can there be a mutual beneficial relationship with that gallery? If not, you don't need to apply, and don't waste your money or energy to apply into the gallery. When you have your vision and everything goes through that filter, it will make such an easier way for you to make that decision. Ask yourself this question: who are the people that will connect to my work, and how can I make it easier for them to find me? Also understanding that the art path is a long path. Think about what's sustainable for you. And if you're starting, or even if you're considering being an artist understand that you're in the beginning, you're going to struggle a bit, and that's okay. It's just part of the process. You're going to struggle not because all artists struggle. You're going to struggle because there's a lot of unknowables. And when there are a lot of unknowables, there goes through a discovery process. You try this, it doesn't work. You try this, it doesn't work. You try something else. Oh, this seems to be working. Awesome. And I enjoy doing this. Okay, but how can we build around this? And it's just really it's a very interactive process, and that's one of the most beautiful things, that it's not just a job like a 9 to 5, you clock in, clock out, you go home and you forget about it. Being an artist, you live and breathe it. It surrounds your everyday. You have a keen eye on details that a lot of people miss, and that can be sometimes staying in a grocery line, it can be at a farmer's market, it can happen completely outside of your studio, because when you're an artist, you're dedicating your entire life to this creativity. And accepting failure is so important, because you are gonna fail. I failed countless times in many things, and you make a mistake and you pivot and you learn from it and you try something else. Failure is so important. It's a really great tool as well. It's okay to acknowledge it. There's no shame around failure at all. And if you can't accept failure, honestly, art might not be your calling, because you are gonna have criticisms. You are gonna have people who really hate your work. You're gonna have maybe even a few years without getting accepted to anything. And it's a very real possibility. And this is where my second point of creating your own opportunities is incredibly important, because the only differentiating factor for you to create your own opportunities is your creativity. How creative can you be, or what creative concept you can come up with to create your own opportunity. The great thing with being an artist is having an artist community. So if you have, like for us here in Portland, you have First Thursdays, go to them, meet other artists, there's going to be artists, collectors, gallery owners, curators. They're all go. Find out your week, whatever week you have. We have First Thursday in some areas, then you have First Fridays, and you have Last Fridays. And try to attend them. Even just showing your face. Initially, you're just going to be just as a viewer. Over time, you're going to start seeing familiar faces. And you're going to start getting to know these people that you've seen around doing the same things as you do. And you're going to start building a community. And with that little community, then you can start putting on shows together when you culminate your efforts and put it together a pop-up art gallery show. We do not survive as artists alone. It is so important to have community. And oftentimes, the more radical your idea, the more polarizing the response will be. And you put your ego aside and you only focus on your controllable. It is not your responsibility to mitigate how others perceive your work. You have a vision. If you always have to center yourself thinking, how am I going to be perceived? You will really find it difficult to find your own voice and your own truth. And when you're not creating from a space of truth, you will have a very hard time resonating with people. Because those who appreciate art, they can usually tell. We went and saw Viet Thanh Nguyen. He's a Vietnamese American author. He was talking about his creative practice as an author, as a writer. And he's the author of The Sympathizer, which is now a show. And he was talking about one of his first books. It's called The Refugees. While he was writing, his creative process was really thinking about how it will be perceived. What are the people are going to think about it? What are the publishers going to think? And that piece of work, it was good, but it didn't get him any awards. With the book The Sympathizer, which actually won him a Pulitzer Prize for fiction in 2016, he sat down to write, not caring at all how it will be perceived. And it came out so authentic and true to his own experience and his own truth. And he told the story he wanted to tell. He needed to tell it. And from that experience, he said that that's one of the advice that he gives to other creatives, is to really, really create from that space. Because the moment you start creating and mitigating how others will perceive your work, the magic of the work is gone. It's not even not caring what they say, but it's having the vision so much larger that it dwarfs what they're saying. Because see, the thing is, people will always judge you. It's just inevitable. People will have their opinions, and there's nothing you can do about it. We all have our own opinions about certain things, and that's okay. And you just keep putting the work out there. And those who succeed, they may not even be the most talented, but they succeed because they have a perseverance. They have a vision and courage to execute the vision. A lot of times people think, oh yeah, but I don't have a following, or how am I gonna get this? Even the ones that have a big following right now, they started from zero. So just put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to speak your truth, because that's what the collectors will connect to, is your truth. Because people connect to people. And the more you share of your ideas, why you're creating the work, how you're doing it, the more people will connect to it. And that's how you start building a smaller community, then it grows larger. And you're building a community around your practice in that way. And it takes time to build your CV. Sometimes you get 3 shows a year, sometimes you get 2. And it's just a line in your CV, but it taught you so much in the process. And so just building your portfolio takes time. Please don't give up just because it doesn't happen in a year. It really, really takes time to build. One of the ways that I created an ecosystem of biodiversity is having these videos on YouTube. 2 months ago, I didn't know what an FPS was, 25 FPS versus 24 FPS. Now I know. Through the process of creating biodiversity in your studio, you create transferable skills that you can bring into your other mediums as well. And it becomes such a healthy way to exist and run a studio practice instead of feeling like it's a chore. I put my work out there, nobody's buying it for me, I don't know what else to do. And having the confidence in your vision to begin, I think, is incredibly important. And you are never too young and you're never too old. Truly. Start now, because it does take time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been helpful. I hope you found something that you can take back to your studio in some way. But I just want to share what I've learned the 3.5 years that I've been doing this full time. Every time I feel down on that saying, when success is when preparation meets opportunity, is a very real thing. I have had 3 very big examples of when I went to an art fair and I met a curator who opened a door for me to an opportunity that there's no way, an opportunity that I would not have been able to get if I wasn't at that place. I signed with an art agent was because I went to an art fair, showed my work there, and that's how they found me. So you never know what opportunities are gonna come your way. Thank you so much. I really hope you have found something helpful here. I just want to share more of the mindset that has helped me with my practice. Mindset is the birthing process of your creative practice. And whenever I feel lost or confused about something, I go back to my vision as an artist. And through that filter, I immediately know what I should do. Is it a yes or is it a no? Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.